There are things women deeply crave, but will never say out loud. And if you know what they are, you hold the power to the entire game. I want you to pause for a second and really think about that. A young man once walked into my office. He looked confident, but his voice cracked the moment he talked about relationships. He said, "I have a good job, decent communication skills. I take care of myself. But why do my relationships always fall apart after a few months?" If you've ever asked yourself the same question, you're not alone. I've heard this story hundreds of times. And over the years, I've come to a conclusion, one that keeps proving itself true. Women don't walk away because you're not good enough. They walk away because you never touch the part of them they never speak about, the unspoken needs, the subtle signals, the deep emotional longings they never put into words. And most men never see them, not because they don't care, but because no one ever taught them how to listen to what a woman doesn't say. Have you ever been in a conversation where everything seemed fine, but deep down, something felt off? She smiled, she nodded, she talked, but you knew. You didn't quite touch that something that makes a connection real. That's the emotional gap most men don't know how to cross. But trust me, once you begin to understand what women secretly want, once you start showing up as a man who's fully present, not performing, not pretending, not people-pleasing, you'll start to feel it. You don't need to be great at flirting. You don't need fancy words. You just need to understand the 10 things I'm about to share and live them like they're part of who you are. Because when you do, you won't just be attractive, you'll be unforgettable. And that's the difference between just another conversation and being the man she can't stop thinking about long after you've left the room. Secret 1, presence begins with a touch. She laughed the whole night. Everything seemed fine, but when I texted her afterward, she didn't reply. That's what a close friend once told me. And I get that feeling more than you might think, because there's something most men don't pay attention to, but women feel it immediately. It's called presence. Let me ask you to imagine this. You're on a date. The conversation is smooth. There's laughter. There's chemistry. But somewhere in the air, something's missing. She doesn't feel seen. She doesn't feel truly felt. Not in a physical sense, but in an emotional, unspoken way. In that quiet but undeniable sense of being safe, of being understood. And here's what most men don't realize. Women, according to dozens of neuroscience studies, don't just feel connection through words. They feel it through energy, through subtle physical signals, through touch, not the kind that's rushed or invasive, not the kind that's mechanical or awkward. I'm talking about meaningful, intentional moments of presence, like a light touch on her hand while you're sharing something real, or your palm gently on her back as you walk into a room together. Sometimes it's even simpler, like offering a soft, care massage before intimacy, not to win her over, not to get anything, but simply to say, without speaking, "I'm here, I see you, you're safe with me." That's the kind of touch women remember, because it's not about control, it's about care. But here's the problem. Most men today aren't really there. They're physically present, sure, but mentally scrambling. What do I say next? Is she into me? And in the process, they miss the moment. They miss the signals she's sending, through silence, through breath, through a lingering glance. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't argue about what a good man should be. Be one." And nothing shows that more clearly than a grounded, intentional touch. Not rushed, not performative, just real. So if you've ever thought, but the date went well, why didn't you feel the connection? Maybe it's because you were listening to the words, while she was feeling something else entirely. When you learn to show up, in your eyes, your hands, your stillness, you won't have to try to impress anyone. You'll simply become someone she can't forget. Secret 2, confidence isn't in your words, it's in how you tease her. I don't know what happened. At first, she seemed into me. But the moment I started showing interest, things got awkward, and then she pulled away. I hear this story almost every week. Something about the way most men flirt. It creates this strange, uncomfortable silence, and they don't know why. Let me say this slowly. Women don't fear flirting. They fear forced flirting. You want to know what makes a man truly attractive to a woman? It's not a compliment. It's not trying to act mysterious. It's when he knows how to tease her, gently, playfully, without needing any kind of permission to be himself. It's a kind of confidence that doesn't depend on, is she laughing? It's a confidence that comes from simply enjoying the moment without needing an outcome. Let me paint the scene. You're sitting across from a smart, interesting woman. She says she loves Italian food. Most guys would start nodding, praising her taste, or saying, "Oh, wow, same here. Total coincidence." But instead, you tilt your head, smile just a little, and say, "Really? That's the best you got? Clearly, you've never tried my cooking. It's not flashy. It's not rehearsed. It's subtle. It's playful. And it adds just a touch of light challenge, the kind that makes conversation spark. In psychology, we call this playful tension. It's a kind of positive friction that makes the brain release dopamine, the same chemical that fuels emotional connection. Here's what you need to remember. The moment you flirt to impress, you've already lost your center. But when you flirt because you're truly enjoying the interaction, when you don't need her to laugh, to validate you, or to like you, you show up as your true self. And women can feel that. They know when you're putting on a role. They also know when you're fully comfortable in your own skin, sharing your energy, not asking for approval. A man once asked me, "How do I flirt without getting rejected?" And I told him, "Don't flirt to be accepted. Flirt because you're living in your truth, and you got nothing to prove." There's a Stoic principle I keep close. Self-respect is a cornerstone of charisma. You don't need to perform to be interesting. You just need to be calm enough to play, without fear of being misunderstood. So next time you see a woman you're drawn to, don't ask yourself, "Does she like me?" Ask, "Am I enjoying this moment truly, gently, and without attachment?" Because sometimes one well-timed tease, spoken with presence, can create a deeper connection than hours of perfect conversation. Secret 3. A well-timed touch to her hair can speak 1,000 words. Have you ever been sitting next to someone and they gently brush a strand of hair from your face, and for a moment, your heart beat just a little faster? No compliment, no confession, just a small, quiet action that somehow says, "I'm here. I really see you." One autumn afternoon, a man in his 30s sat across from me in a session. He talked about a woman he had once dated. He said, "Everything between us was warm and simple. But there was this one moment I'll never forget when I reached over to tuck her hair behind her ear and she just smiled. She didn't say a word, but I felt something I still can't explain. And I knew exactly what he meant, because that tiny moment, that subtle touch, taps into something ancient and emotional that words can't quite reach. You see, the scalp is one of the most sensitive emotional zones in the body. Neuroscience shows that touch on the hair or head can trigger the parasympathetic nervous system, the one responsible for relaxation, trust, and emotional bonding. But the key isn't just knowing that. The real magic lies in when you choose to act on it. You can't just reach for someone's hair on a first date and expect fireworks. But if there's already ease between you, if there's chemistry, a sense of warmth, a shared pause in the conversation, then a light, intentional gesture, like gently moving a strand of hair from her face, can change everything. Picture this. The two of you are sitting side by side. The room is quiet. There's a warm light in the air. No one speaking, but it's not awkward. It's peaceful. She looks down. You turn slightly toward her, and without saying anything, you gently brush a loose strand of hair from her cheek. No words, no expectations, just presence. What does she feel in that moment? Not, "He's flirting with me," but rather, "He's really here. He sees me." He's deeply in tune with this moment. And in today's world, where everything feels rushed, loud, and transactional, that kind of emotional subtlety feels like gold. This, by the way, is what the Stoics would call emotional discipline. Acting not from impulse, not from desire, not from nervous energy, but from stillness, from observation, from deep listening. If you ask me, do I really have to touch a woman's hair to connect with her? I'd say, no, of course not. But if the moment comes and you're present enough to notice it, then that simple, unspoken gesture might tell her everything you could never say out loud. Secret 4, a hand on her back, saying, I'm here without words. Have you ever been in the middle of a crowded place? Noisy, chaotic, everyone pushing in every direction. And then suddenly, someone gently places a hand on your back, guiding you through all that noise. What did you feel? Not pressure, not control, just a quiet sense of safety. I once watched a couple walk into a packed cafe. He didn't say much. He simply opened the door, stepped ahead just slightly, and for half a second, he placed his hand on her lower back to guide her inside. No one else noticed. No one complimented him. But I saw the faint smile on her face. Not the kind of smile that says, I'm impressed. The kind that whispers, I feel cared for. Here's the truth. Women don't need you to act strong. They don't need to be rescued. But deep down, they still want to feel that someone is grounded enough to walk beside them through the chaos of the world. And sometimes, a simple hand on her back says everything. You're not alone. I'm here. I'm not controlling you, but I've got you. From a psychological point of view, this gesture is about quiet leadership. It tells her, without words, that you're aware of your surroundings, that you're making micro decisions to help her feel at ease. It's not dominance. It's presence. This is what we call energetic leadership, the kind that doesn't ask for attention, but offers calm direction. In Stoic philosophy, there's a line I always return to: power is quiet. Strength is presence. Real strength doesn't need to speak. It doesn't demand recognition. It simply shows up calm, solid, grounded. So when you place your hand on her back, you're not saying, I'm a strong man. What you're saying is, I see you. I care. I'm a steady presence. Not because you're weak, but because I'm strong enough to offer support without making it about me. And here's the beautiful part. When you do this without expecting a reaction, without needing to be praised, it becomes part of who you are. A man who knows how to walk beside someone, not seeking the spotlight, not overstepping, just being quietly there. So the next time you're walking alongside a woman, don't just focus on the conversation. Notice the rhythm of your steps, the space between you, and that perfect moment to place your hand on her back, lightly, naturally, with grounded intent. Because sometimes a single gentle touch can do what a whole speech never could. And when you're ready, let's move into Secret 5. It goes even deeper, into what it means to protect someone, not in a movie hero kind of way, but in a very real, very human way. Secret 5, being a protector, not through big gestures, but through calm and small moments. Not long ago, a woman in her late 20s told me, I don't want a man who tries to save me. I just want to feel that if something happens, he's got me. And you know what? That's more common than you think. Today's women are independent, strong. They have careers, goals, and can handle life just fine. But beneath that strength, there's still desire. Not for control, but for comfort. Not the kind of protector who tries to fix everything, but the kind of man who offers steady presence when things around her feel chaotic. I've seen it over and over in therapy sessions. Men who believe they failed in relationships because they weren't exciting or powerful enough. But what women often needed was someone who could stay calm when things got tense, someone who wouldn't panic if a waiter was rude, if a car honked aggressively, if something fell off. Being a protector doesn't always look heroic. Sometimes it's just this: not making a big deal when she's anxious, just sitting with her in silence, letting her know you got home safe without her needing to ask. Being steady, even when you're uncertain inside. Women notice these things. They may not say it out loud, but they feel it. It's not about dominance. It's about reliability. In Stoic philosophy, there's a quote I return to often. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Epictetus. That right there is the difference between being reactive and being grounded. A man who responds with presence, not panic, becomes someone she can trust, not just emotionally, but energetically. You don't need to protect her from the world, but if you can make her feel emotionally safe, in a world full of noise, distraction, and pressure, you've done more than most men ever will. So next time something small goes wrong, don't rush to fix it. Don't lecture. Just be there. Be steady. Because in a world where most people flinch, overreact, or disappear, your calm might be the most attractive thing she's ever felt. Secret 6. Suggesting you dream about her and let her imagination do the rest. I had a dream about you last night. It sounds simple, maybe even a little cheesy, but this one sentence can make a woman think about you for days. Sounds like something from a romance novel, right? But from a psychological standpoint, this makes perfect sense. Because when a woman hears she was in your dream, it doesn't feel like a pickup line. It's not, I'm trying to impress you. It's something deeper. It's this, I couldn't control it. But even in my sleep, you were on my mind. I once shared this idea with a friend of mine. He's an interior designer in his early 30s, just starting a new relationship. One night, in the middle of their casual text exchange, he said, "You know, I had the strangest dream about you last night. I don't remember all of it, just that we were sitting in some unfamiliar cafe, and you couldn't stop laughing." Then silence. He didn't elaborate. He didn't try to turn it into anything more. 2 days later, she sent him a photo, a riverside cafe she just visited, with one simple line. "Thought of this place. If you ever want to turn that dream into reality." What happened there? He didn't build a fantasy. He didn't try to force an emotional reaction. He simply dropped a seed and left space for her imagination to grow it. In psychology, this is called emotional planting. You offer a soft, vague image, and instead of pushing for connection, you create an opening for curiosity. That space, the silence, is what makes her lean in. And let's be clear, this only works if it's honest. If you're just saying, "I dreamed of you," to get a response, she'll sense the game instantly. But if it's real, if you truly felt something, even a flicker, and share it with no expectation, you've just tapped into the deepest layer of emotional attraction, her imagination. It's not about strategy. It's about intention. And that's why it aligns so well with Stoic philosophy. There's a quote I love: "A wise man speaks only when his words can improve upon silence." This isn't about storytelling. It's about stillness. You share a subtle truth, then return to quiet, and let her feel what can't be said out loud. Because sometimes one soft image in her mind is louder than anything you could ever say. Secret 7. A well-groomed beard doesn't just make you attractive. It awakens something primal in her. Have you ever seen a man who didn't say much, didn't do anything flashy, but just standing there? He radiated a kind of quiet strength, not because of his clothes, not because of his smile, but maybe because of the way he carried his face and the way he carried his beard. I know, it sounds almost too simple. Seriously? A beard is a secret to attraction. Yes, if you understand why. Throughout history, from ancient kings and warriors to philosophers and modern-day leaders, many of the most iconic, respected men had facial hair, not for fashion, not to look cool, but because of instinct. According to evolutionary psychology, the female brain often associates a well-kept beard with very specific things: maturity, emotional stability, physical strength, and most importantly, self-possession. A beard isn't just facial hair. It's a silent statement. I know who I am. I don't need to prove it. But here's the key. This isn't about whether or not you should grow one. Because attraction isn't about having a beard. It's about what your grooming says about how you carry yourself. An unkempt, messy beard, it gives off signals of chaos, laziness, lack of discipline. But neatly trimmed beard, whether short, stubbled, or full, communicates something powerful. I take care of myself. I respect the way I show up in the world. One of my favorite Stoic principles is this: your outer self should reflect the discipline of your inner world. What people see on your face is often the first message they receive about who you are. I once worked with a real estate entrepreneur in his early 30s. He came into my office saying, "I don't know why, but I feel like people overlook me. I don't leave a strong impression." I didn't suggest a dramatic change. I just said, try growing a beard for 1 month. Not to reinvent yourself, but to build the discipline of showing up with intention every morning. So he did. Each day, he trimmed, moisturized, took a moment to really look in the mirror, and without realizing it, he began reintroducing himself to himself. A month later, he returned, different posture, clearer voice. He smiled and said, "I don't know what happened, but people listen to me now. And women, they hold eye contact longer." I knew what had happened. It wasn't just the beard. It was a decision to treat his face, his presence, with care and consistency. That kind of self-respect is magnetic. It doesn't shout. It doesn't beg. It just is. So no, you don't need facial hair to be attractive. But if you have it, treat it the way you treat your character. Refined, intentional, quietly powerful. Because at some point, it's no longer just a beard. It becomes a reflection of the man behind it. Ready for Secret 8? We're about to leave appearance behind and step into something much deeper. Something you can't fake with looks or charm. It's the one thing that makes her feel truly safe, without a single word. And believe me, very few men ever master it. Secret 8. True presence isn't just being there. It's letting others feel you're really there. Have you ever sat next to someone but felt completely alone? Maybe they kept checking their phone. Or maybe they were looking at you, but somehow you knew they weren't really listening. You know that feeling? Like you're talking, but not being heard. Like you're there, but invisible. Now imagine the opposite. A man who doesn't talk too much. He doesn't interrupt. Doesn't try to impress. But when you speak, his eyes stay in the moment. His body listens with you, not just his ears. And suddenly, you feel heard, seen, held without being touched. That's the power of presence. And I don't mean just being around. I mean truly showing up emotionally, mentally, spiritually. As a therapist here in the U.S., I can tell you this. Most people don't come to me because of betrayal or because they fell out of love. They come because somewhere along the way, they stopped feeling seen. And most men don't realize they checked out long before she walked away. There's a line in Stoic philosophy I return to often. Be where you are. Otherwise, you will miss your life. Because when you're not really present, when you're stuck in your head, or trying to manage how you're being perceived, or thinking about what to say next, you're not with her. You're not with anyone. You're just elsewhere. Women don't need you to talk like a movie script. They don't want a perfect answer. They want to know when they speak, you're really listening. When they're silent, you're not afraid. When you touch them, it's not rushed. When you're with them, you're not distracted, not judging, not retreating into your own thoughts. You're just there, fully, like an anchor in the middle of an emotional storm. A close friend once told me this about her ex. I don't remember half the things he said, but I'll never forget the night I broke down crying about work. And he didn't try to fix it. He just sat there, looked at me, handed me a glass of water. No advice, no speeches, just stayed. And somehow, I didn't feel like I was falling apart anymore. That kind of presence doesn't require degrees, or tricks, or pickup lines. It requires you to stop, put everything down, and actually show up. If you're the kind of man who always feels he has to do something to be noticed, maybe it's time to try doing nothing, except being fully, completely, and unapologetically there. Because sometimes that quiet presence, that grounded stillness, is exactly what she's been longing for, even if she never says it out loud. Are you ready for Secret 9? This next one takes us into something raw, something primal, where connection has nothing to do with words, and everything to do with timing, trust, and touch. Secret 9. A gentle touch to her hair at the right moment can speak louder than words. A simple gesture, like tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, can say more than 100 carefully written messages. I want you to picture this. You and her are sitting close. The conversation has slowed down, not because it's awkward, but because it's real. She tilts her head. A strand of hair slips down her cheek. You glance at her. Then, slowly with no rush, you reach out and gently tuck it behind her ear. No words, no pressure, just presence. That one moment can create more emotional connection than hours of talking. You see, the scalp and the area around the hairline are incredibly sensitive, not just physically, but emotionally. A gentle, non-sexual touch there, when done right, can trigger a sense of being noticed, safe, and understood. It says, without saying, I see you, I notice the little things, and I care without trying too hard. But here's where 99% of men get it wrong. It's not the gesture that matters. It's the emotional space behind it. If you do this too early, before she feels emotionally safe, you risk coming off as invasive, awkward, or worse, disrespectful. It's not about the touch. It's about the timing, the energy, the intention underneath the action. I once worked with a client. He was a brilliant software engineer, but always said, I just don't have that physical magnetism women seem to respond to. I didn't tell him to change his look. I didn't teach him pickup tricks. I taught him how to sense the moment, to read the body language, to listen not just to her words, but to the silence between them. Weeks later, he told me this. We were sitting in the car, rain tapping the windshield. She started sharing about how, as a kid, she was terrified of lightning, and then a strand of her hair stuck to her face. I didn't overthink it. I just gently brushed it back behind her ear. She looked at me, didn't say a word, but I knew everything changed right there. That touch wasn't about closeness. It was about emotional trust. It whispered, I see you. I'm here, and you're safe to let me into your world. There's a quote from Marcus Aurelius I often return to. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If you touch her from a place of impatience, control, or hidden agenda, she'll feel that. But if you touch her from a place of calm, care, and real emotion, she'll feel that too. And she'll trust it. In a world that's louder, faster, and more chaotic than ever, a soft, intentional touch, done in the right moment, isn't just rare. It's magnetic. You don't have to do it often. You don't have to make it a habit. You just have to be present enough to know when to act and when to wait. Are you ready for Secret 10? Because this next one doesn't require words. It doesn't even require touch. It's about how you stand beside her and lead not with speeches, but with quiet, powerful action. Secret 10. A gentle hand on her lower back. A small gesture that speaks quiet strength. It's not the words. It's not the gift. It's the touch. The right touch. At the right time. You're walking next to her. Crowded street. You step ahead to open a door. And instead of saying anything, you gently place your hand on her lower back, guiding her through. No big moves. No possessiveness. No flashy romantic hero performance. Just one quiet message. I see you. I'm here. I'll lead. It sounds simple. Almost too small to matter. But here's the truth. The smallest things, done with real presence, create the biggest emotional impact. Women feel this more than you think. They don't need a man to be a bodyguard. They don't want to be owned or protected in the old-fashioned sense. What they want is to feel that when they're with you, they can breathe easier. They can relax. And they'll rarely say it, but they'll remember it. They'll know the difference between a man who just walks beside them and a man who's truly present. I once worked with a client. Quiet, thoughtful guy, smart, reliable, but always told. You feel emotionally distant. So I gave him one simple task. Next time you walk into a room with her, don't say anything. Just open the door and gently place your hand on her back as she walks in. Weeks later, he messaged me. She didn't say anything, but the way she looked at me, it was different. like I was someone she could trust, like she saw something in me that wasn't there before. And that's the point. This isn't about touching her body. It's about what your body says to hers. From a psychological standpoint, a soft touch on the lower back, done with awareness and respect, activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It tells her nervous system, you're safe. You can relax. You're not alone. In a world that's constantly rushing, loud, and self-absorbed, that sense of calm is a rare gift. Marcus Aurelius once said, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Don't tell her you're trustworthy. Show her without needing words. Let her feel it through one calm, grounded gesture. You don't need to be big. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to be steady enough that when she walks into any space with you beside her, she feels, deep down, if he's here, I'm safe. No promises, no speeches, just one quiet hand on her back. And that might be the one thing she never forgets. The wrap-up, 10 deep desires women will never say out loud. Maybe you've thought this before. I just need to be more attractive, make more money, say the right things. Not wrong, but not enough. Real attraction doesn't come from what you try to show. It comes from what she quietly feels, even when you say nothing at all. Over the past few minutes, we've explored 10 secrets, each one a small key that unlocks a different door in the emotional world of a woman, not to manipulate, but to connect deeply, honestly, and meaningfully. And here's what I want you to remember. As someone who spent years working with men just like you, every woman wants to feel seen, felt, and safe with a man who is fully present. Mind, body, and heart. Here's what you've learned. A simple touch on her hair, her back, or even just through your eyes, when done with timing and sincerity, can create a connection deeper than words. True presence, free of distraction, free of ego, is the most valuable gift you can offer her. Subtle leadership, not to show control, but to say, you're safe with me. And behind all of it, a quiet philosophy drawn from Stoicism, where you don't try to become someone. You simply anchor into who you truly are. But the most important part, don't perform these secrets like a checklist. Let them sink into your way of being. Practice observation. Practice stillness. Practice being fully there. Because attraction doesn't come from tricks. It comes from growth. So I want you to ask yourself this. How do I want women to remember me? As the loud one trying too hard? Or as the quiet man? The one who, even after he's left the room, still lingers in her thoughts? Women feel deeper than most men realize. They remember the small things, the moments you didn't try to impress, but were simply there, grounded, honest, real. So now it's your turn. Do you want to live like the 99% of men, rushed, uncertain, chasing without clarity? Or step into the 1%, men who aren't perfect, but who know exactly why they do what they do, and do it with heart? If you're ready for that second path, then trust me, this is just the beginning. Drop a comment below and tell me which of the 10 secrets hit you the hardest. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because in the next video, I'll reveal a psychological insight most men are never taught, but it could completely change the way women see you. Stay grounded, stay sharp, and above all, show up like the man a woman can trust, even in silence. You're not here to impress. You're here to become unforgettable.